Hey everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Brand Federation's Beer and Brands. I'm Matt Williams, Managing Partner at Brand Federation, along with our CEO and founder, Kelly O'Keefe.
Excited to be doing another one of these.
Always fun, and you've probably noticed that we're back at our home away from home, Isley Brewing, here in Richmond.
One of the best in Richmond.
One of the best.
Come on down.
Speaking of which, Josh from Isley is going to come on in and tell us what we're drinking today. What do we got, Josh?
All right, gentlemen. First, it's great to see you guys again.
Good to see you.
Good
Thanks
to
for
see you,
having
Josh.
us.
Very welcome. So the first thing I've got for you guys is not beer. It's a mango seltzer that we've been playing with here lately. Super crushable for the summertime. Just sugar, cane sugar, water, a little bit of yeast, and fresh mango puree. Second beer I've got for you guys is an American Pale Ale that we're actually just releasing this upcoming weekend. A little bit lower alcohol content, 4.5%. Still lots and lots of hop flavor. It's a more kind of a traditional, almost an old school American Pale Ale, if you will. So it's got a little bit of a bitter backbone, but it's got some malt in there to balance it out, and I think it's going to do really, really well for us for the summertime.
Amazing.
Sounds
We're
good.
gonna
I gotta
crush the
try
mango.
this.
Ready?
Oh man,
That's so good.
that is really good.
Dangerous.
Dangerous. Be
Very
very
dangerous.
careful.
Yes.
Be very careful with
Absolutely.
the mango.
So
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Josh, for having us. It's always great to see you, and we'll have you back and hear more about what's going on at Isley.
all right, sounds great. Thanks,
Terrific.
guys.
Thanks.
Well, Kelly, you'll notice that we do have a second set of beers.
I noticed that.
So that's for our guest.
That
And-
usually
and
means we've got a guest.
if you saw the last round of Beer and Brands, we had Aaron Bishop, our managing director in charge of insights and research.
She was
here.
terrific.
And I got a lot of crap on the social medias for being stupidly tall next to Aaron. Aaron's small. Aaron's small. Our guest today has no risk of making me look big. Because our guest today is Ron Carey, the founder of Tilt. And he's going to come in and talk to us about content production and how content production and strategy work together. So we're excited to talk to Ron.
Very cool and
So-
very important conversation.
Hang out. We'll be back with Ron Carey. A little more beer, a little more brands. All right, Kelly, we're back with our special guest, Ron Carey.
Very excited to have you
The
here,
founder
Ron.
and CEO of Tilt Creative and Production, an amazing and fast-growing content production and creation studio here in Richmond, working for brands like Audi, Capital One,
Yeah.
others.
HP,
HP.
Disney. We're having fun with lots of great partners these days.
Amazing,
Yeah.
man. It's really amazing. So we want to get into content marketing, right? There's not a marketer in the world who isn't thinking about content marketing. I got to be in the content business. We want to understand from you, like, how to do it well. What does it mean to be a good content marketer, and how should we think about it differently from traditional advertising?
So it's so funny. First of all, let me say it's great to be with you guys. I love the podcast, the videos, that work that you've been doing and telling the story of Brand Federation and bringing a lot of
Cheers.
wonderful. I haven't been drinking as much lately, but I'll for you guys today, I'll have one. But bringing some wonderful stories in from some great venues around. But it's pretty amazing. When we started the business 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, no one was talking about content marketing. Traditional advertising was the
Yeah.
sexy, right?
Absolutely.
The campaigns and the televisions and everyone wanting to go work for an agency. Content marketing, it was on the periphery, right? It supported the campaign. And what I like to say now is it's no longer on the periphery. It has the ability to do the sexy campaign work up front, as well as all of the tactical, making the content personal and connected to the audience. And so that's been the most amazing thing about this thing called content marketing that is now starting to proliferate kind of the world.
Yep.
And you
Yeah.
can tell a richer story in content marketing.
You can,
You're
and
not bound by 30 seconds. Or,
you're not bound by much of anything, Kelly. I mean, that's the amazing part, whether it's a 6-second piece of content, whether it's video, whether it's editorial, whether it's still photography, right? The range of work and way that you can tell the story is pretty amazing. And the fact is that, you know, you can even now do a long form piece of content, 16 minutes, 20 minutes, that if it's for the right audience and they're connected, they're going to be interested and engaged.
No,
Yeah,
that's great.
that's really cool. Now, when you look across your clients who are doing this the right way, and you look outside and you see people doing it wrong, how do people screw up content marketing?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is there's some overlapping elements between advertising, as we've talked about, and content marketing. And it's, what's the insight, right? You all's business is starting with what's the right bit of insight? What's the insight? What's the right story? Who's the audience that you're trying to talk to? Have you developed something that's relevant for them at the right time in the right place? I was in New York recently for a meeting, and there was a client, not our client, we were at a panel session, and the person was making the comment that they so desperately wanted to be on TikTok. right? And they were just jumping to get on TikTok for the sake of being on TikTok, but they hadn't developed any particular insight that they were going to give. The messaging wasn't, as relevant to that audience when it was being delivered in terms of timeliness. Was it causing you to bring some specific action? So those are some of the key elements, right? And you still want to see a good story in what you're doing.
Isn't it funny how these things happen? It happened when websites became a big deal. It happened when Twitter and TikTok come on the scene. Everybody scrambles so much to be on the medium or on the platform or to have that thing that they forget to think about what the strategy is and who they're talking to and what the hell's the point of this thing. I remember we made the first website for Coca-Cola at Martin, and we were so excited about it.
Pretty good.
And you look, well, we thought. And you look back at it and you're like, what the hell is this? We thought this was going to be the hub for everybody's internet activity. That's the dumbest thing in the world. It was the worst website ever. But we were scrambling to get on the web. We didn't think about how to do it.
I think that's a challenge with the older agency paradigm, which is to start with a media plan, and that gives us the holes we need to fill with content, rather than starting with the insight that then drives the story, that then suggests what is the appropriate media to target a given audience with a given message.
Yeah, that's the important piece, right? The one element that we would connect on, which is what's the story and the insight, but also what I often talk about is what's the customer journey?
Yeah.
And if you're not following the customer, what are all the touch points for that customer? Where are they? What form of media are they engaging in along this journey? Because that's going to tell you exactly where you should be, when you should be there, how you should be showing up, versus just kind of saying, well, let's just put together a traditional media plan and we're going to just be all over the place. That may not be where your customer is.
But that's what's so cool about content, though, because if you thought about it in journey terms, and we used to years ago in media planning, you think about day in the life, and it's just another way to think about the customer journey.
That's right.
But TV, traditional TV, which is the only place content lived in a very specific part of that day in the life. Now, content allows me to touch people anywhere along that continuum.
That's true. As long as they're connected, we can reach them with messages that are relevant to them. And the point that you have to build it on an insight and around their need is an important one, because I think too often we've had mediums where we could force feed message to audience. You're going to watch this show, and 4 or 5 times through the show, I get to interrupt them, and we own them. Now we have to earn their attention, and I think it's changed the game a little bit.
Oh, absolutely it has, right? I mean, in some ways you kind of think it's been a democratization. The customer is so much more in control than they've ever been in terms of what they want to consume. The model used to be a push, now it's a pull model.
How are you guys at Tilt combining strategy, creative, and production in a way that's nimble enough and fast enough to work in today's content world?
What we often talk about is the importance of the how you structure things. And so from the very beginning of the company being set up, it was important to us to say, well, we can't only be a creatively led organization. I think if we had been a creatively led organization only, it would have limited the participation of the line producer and the animator and the editor. And what we literally tried to create from the very beginning, and we actually explicitly say this, is these things are equal. It's not one A and one B or this, right? These things are equal. And what the animator said to us, just as one example, is, oh, I so much more enjoy being at the front end of the process now, and all of a sudden someone hasn't concepted something, brought me something, and now on the back end I'm trying to make an adjustment about, wow, what does this look like when we're going to put it into frames and shaping it up? It's the, no, I'm participating in the creative process up front. So I think that how has been the biggest change.
Yeah.
So it's not just about democratization of the consumer. You've democratized the production, which is very cool, and given everyone a voice in an industry that hasn't always done that.
Absolutely. And when in doing that, what that's done is taken a lot of traditional friction out of the process. And all of a sudden, we're sitting there with a client and having a conversation and going through concepting of our ideas. And all of a sudden, we really know right up front, what can we make? What can't we make? Is it going to really fit in that budget? Right? So the amount of time required for you to pause, do an idea, go find your production partner to, maybe give you how far off you are, and then getting into the back and forth, right? We've tried to eliminate a lot of that and just making it easier for brands to get done what they'd like to get done.
It's almost like taking the principles of agile development and putting it into content creation.
That's exactly
which is
right.
Teams working more closely together, working more iteratively and faster, so that you can move as fast as you need to move. Because you need to make more things for way less money,
Yep.
way faster.
Yeah, much faster. And we love that part of the process because often someone will come to us, and one real life example of this is we've had several partners approach and say, gosh, we need something done in 7 days. Well, between creative computer to cloud technology, which allows the client for us to shoot, for client to be able to see kind of what's being shot right away, having editor on shoot, and immediately getting selects and going into production on something, we can turn around some work in instances of 5 to 7 days because these things are moving simultaneously, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So one last question. If you've got a marketing director on the other side of that camera,
Yeah.
and you need to give her advice about doing content marketing the right way,
Yeah.
what's the most important piece or couple of pieces of advice?
I think the most important piece, we've talked about one of them. What's the insight, right? What are you trying to do and what's the story right up front? Trying to talk about that. I think the second piece, and we've talked about this, is the how, right? Both internally, are you clear about directionally where you're trying to go and what you want to make? But also, have you selected the partners that understand the how they've put the capabilities together for you to make it much more efficient and effective in terms of doing things? And then the other piece of it is be amenable and flexible in terms of what form content's going to take, because you're going to be producing large volumes of it. It doesn't have to be perfect, and that's a really important
Viewers of
thing.
this show understand that.
We're doing that part really well.
We are, thank you.
Check, got that covered.
Yeah, it's funny, that last piece. I mean, that's anathema to
Yeah.
traditional agencies,
It is,
right?
it is, yeah.
We're sweating every detail and taking however much time it takes to sweat that detail. What you're saying is this content burns bright and burns fast, and get it out. Get it good and get it out. Don't sweat the perfect.
That's exactly right.
All right, Ron, we have a tradition here at Beer and Brands that we like to put our guests through. We want to talk about winners and losers.
Okay.
But instead of a list of winners and losers this time, we want to ask a bigger question relative to AI. Lots of talk about AI.
Sort of the elephant in the room.
It's the elephant in the room.
It is.
Let's ask ourselves, in the world of AI, which is coming whether we like it or not, will content and brands be winners or losers?
I think that's a great conversation and a great question. I think at the end of the day, Kelly, we were talking about something earlier and mentioned it's going to be both, right? It depends on how you look at it. Certainly, I wouldn't want to be the first brand that says, let me jump in and do a fully blown campaign that's based on AI. There's a bit of work to be done. Bard went off and did its own things and created some things that the developers hadn't intended. So I think there's still some stuff to figure out.
It needs some adult supervision.
It needs some supervision and
Yeah.
probably some guidelines and some boundaries, but you should be playing with it right now and experimenting and trying to figure out what are the boundaries of this and how can it make you more efficient and smarter. I think it makes us smarter, but I think we're going to have to figure it out over time.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's right. It could be a useful tool for a number of things, and anything that becomes labor saving or gathers information more quickly or synthesizes information more quickly could have utility, not just in business, but in society. But also, any tool that's ever been created can be corrupted. And if you have the wrong intent, you could probably get it to do some things you wish it wouldn't do.
Yeah, I think that's true. I also think if you're running a team, if you're running a company, no matter what the size of that company, and you and your people are not playing with this,
Yes.
you're already behind. Right?
Yeah.
You're already getting lapped by your competitors. I think there's going to be a very short window, and we're in the middle of it now, where the use of AI can be a competitive advantage. But that's going to very quickly shrink to the point where if you're not using AI, you're getting left behind. And that's going to be true in the matter of months, not years.
No question.
In a leadership meeting, this is probably a month ago, when it seems that it's learning some new capability every other week now, but we just said, hey, let's give it a prompt for a 30-second commercial. We needed a script and we needed some basic things. And it wasn't perfect, but when you think about the exercise that we would have gone through in the past, you just kind of go, oh, well, that's pretty interesting what it would come back with in fairly short order. Or there was someone who told me that they planned a vacation trip using AI, and it put together an agenda, an itinerary. It made reservations at hotels. It knew when the reservations changed. So I think there's certainly some applications for us going forward.
Yeah, I think it's amazing what it can do to get you 75% of the way there. Whether it's about an itinerary or a script or a treatment or even a presentation deck, it can get you there in the matter of literally seconds, where it would have taken somebody a couple of days, maybe a week to get there. And if you can get it to 70%, then you can devote your energy to really crafting that last 30. And it'll be faster and it'll be better. And you won't have done that upfront 70%, which is a little more of a commoditized set of work, and the 30% that adds the real value you can focus on. That's not a bad thing.
There is the deep fake though, right?
Yeah,
Where
right,
all of a
of
sudden you see
course.
the Tom
That's right.
Cruise and you see Drake performing, and I think there are going to be certain intellectual property challenges. And well, how do we track? And who really originally came up with the original idea? And
Yeah, right.
what is this based on? So there's going to be some interesting things to figure out.
It will take a while before we have the right rules or norms to sort of keep an eye on this and make sure that it isn't used improperly. At the same time, it's time now to start to look at how it can be useful to you, how you can tailor it to the needs that you have in your business. And I think it also raises the bar in terms of understanding, as we talk about a lot, understanding who you are as a company and what your brand is, because the AI can't drive itself, at least at this point. It needs to be prompted, and it takes a really clear understanding of what you want to accomplish and what your objectives are, what you stand for, before you can turn over anything to an automated tool to create.
I think that's going to prove to be the art, is the prompting. It's like playing a musical instrument. The real virtuosos in AI are going to be the ones who understand how to prompt it to get what they want. And it's hard to do, and it takes a lot of practice. So when we say you should be training your people how to work with this, it's really about how to prompt it to get what you want.
And I think when you think about the jobs in our industries that will be incredibly significant moving forward, it's those that know how to write those prompts and develop and feed the system, and what's the database and where does the information come from that's going to kind of give the system the ability to make informed kind of briefs and insights and information. So that's going to be the really important pieces. What do those roles look like? You know, years ago it was the data analysts that were coming in and significantly changing things in data analytics. So I think that's going to be really important.
Yeah. I was talking to a guy who runs a research company who was saying he's compiling a handbook of prompts that he can give his research analysts and methodological experts and moderators to use in their fields to get where they need to go faster with AI. Here are the prompts you need to create a discussion guide. Here are the prompts you need to create a survey. Here are the prompts you need to help AI synthesize results or read data. It's a toolbox. It's really cool. It's a great idea.
No, that's awesome. I'm incredibly excited on the content side of things, because when you start to think about translation and going into 100 markets around the globe, or you start thinking about just different versioning of things, or you want to test different concepts or ideas that you've got, there's some really interesting things that you can start to do just based on what the tool looks like today. So I think this is going to continue to get better and better over time.
I think in all cases where we see new technology disrupt industries, what typically happens is the technical skills that were once valued become less valued, but the intellectual skills don't go away. That's true of mathematicians who are still doing great work, even though they no longer have to calculate a cosine. And so a lot of that redundant labor has been eased. They can focus more on higher level thinking. It happened in desktop publishing when we no longer had to create boards and create artwork in old traditional ways. We could focus on the idea, focus on the design. It's happened in video, where it used to be an incredible labor to craft a video, and now most people can craft a video in their pocket. Maybe not good, because again, it pushes up the need to those higher level, the thinking, the concept, the things we've talked about with respect to making great content. But what it will do, I think, is ease some of the technical responsibilities that we might have had to create a research brief, or create a report on something, or do a draft one, or write some code. Those things, I think, will be eased, and we'll focus more on what's up here and how we drive that.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, we may get to a place where as creators, this is super exciting, right? This is really interesting. It can enable us to do all the things you said. As consumers, it's a little scary because you don't know what's real. You don't know what to trust. And what effect will that have on the overall trust level consumers ascribe to everything that gets put in front of it, whether it's legitimate or not, right? They may distrust everything because of the problems with deepfakes.
You talk about winners and losers. Many of those that are playing in the space now, Microsoft, Google, right? There was the meeting in DC recently. I think they're very much open to what the guardrails are, because they understand kind of the potential of this, and I think would like to operate in a little bit more of a structure. I think humanity, consumers, want to understand what's real information and valid and not valid. The news industry has been doing this for years in terms of trying to say, hey, we've got journalism credentials. It's really important that you know where your information has come from. And I think what we've found out over time is when you don't know where your information comes from and it's not of high quality, it causes lots of societal issues. So I think that there's a demand from human beings to want to know that if something's been computer generated, they're okay in knowing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that demand outstrips their desire to have their beliefs reinforced, whether they're true or not.
You know, we've been talking to Ron about content, but I want to talk to you, Ron, about the
Yep.
company itself. You've been at this for a little over 5 years,
Mhm.
had great success. If you don't know about Tilt Production, go online to their website. You'll be blown away by the quality of work and the things that they do in the community. But tell me a little bit about how you got started.
Yeah, so this really started. I often tell people you have a germ of an idea, and it's pretty amazing when you can plant the seed, water it, and watch something start to grow. This idea started probably 6, 7 years ago, no, 7 or 8 years ago, back when I was running a digital agency that I got to work with Matt Williams on at the time. It was called Studio Squared. And the idea started with, really, wouldn't it be interesting if we could combine an agency with a production partner, and how do you get all of that under one roof? So the short version of the story is it started with an acquisition. I was able to kind of buy that company and take it private, which was pretty amazing. And then along the way, I started talking to production partners, and Park Group, Dave Trenzel and Stacy Murphy, were very much interested in kind of fulfilling this vision of let's put this thing together. And they were okay with changing names and rebranding, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because all of this happened over a few conversations. And next thing I know, Tilt's born in December of 2017.
Oh, man.
We didn't really have a bunch of clients in hand at that point. We started with maybe a Walmart opportunity and a little bit of work doing with Audi. And literally at that point, the notion of content marketing started to take off. But I do remember in the early days talking about content marketing and content development and all of this, and folks would kind of look at you as if like, what are you talking about? What are we going to do? And we just kept at it and kept at it. The vision's been pretty amazing. It's been pretty cool to get, do the work we've been able to do over the years.
That message of staying at it is a common theme with entrepreneurial businesses that succeed. They stick to their knitting, they grow, they change, they evolve, but they know what they want to do and they stick with it. One thing that I'm interested in, we've talked in the past, and you imagined that you'd be working with a lot of agency clients, and over time you've seen more in-house agencies at large clients, which we've seen all across the branding industry lately. They've gotten better and better, more and more sophisticated. They're doing more and more things in the absence of their agency partners.
I think that's a great point. I mean, really, when we started, if you'd said, my vision was, we'll probably be, let's say, 65% agency work on the production, because I really look at the business and it's a creative. These services can be purchased together. These services can be purchased apart. Creative, post-production, and production. So I thought, okay, so 65% of the work will be direct to agency and the rest is direct to brand. And literally what we found is this growth of brands saying, no, I'm expert in my product and my services, and I want to tell that story. I want to partner with agencies on the outside or partner with the right capabilities, but we're the champions of this. And really, our business model has really been probably more in excess of 95% direct to brand work, which has been really cool for us, because with some of the partners we've worked with over time, they've gotten really good at either saying, hey, we've got an idea we've developed. We want you to take the idea and implement parts of it. Or we may come and they may say, hey, we've got a business line vertical. You know our business well enough. We're going to go ahead and connect you with the clients, and you run with from concepting to production all the way through. So it's really been a pretty amazing and complementary to have these things work together. But it's taken a lot of work for us to figure that out. But hand in glove, how does a production company that used to be working for the creative director, how do they now operate as equals? So
amazing.
Yeah,
it's
it really
such a
is.
cool story. Ron, thank you so much for spending the time with us. It's been so cool to hear more about Tilt and what you're doing. Check out Tilt Creative and Production and what Ron and his team are doing. It's really, really remarkable. So not just what you're making for clients, but what you guys are doing in the Richmond community, like Kelly said.
It's incredible.
Really, really cool
Really.
to watch. So thanks to Ron for spending time with us.
It's been a pleasure.
And let's bring Josh from Isley back in.
All right.
Hear a little more about what's going on in the brewery.
Sounds good.
And we're back with Josh from Isley. We want to hear more about what's going on at Isley Brewing. I know you've got some new beers coming out, but some other stuff to talk about also.
Absolutely, yes. Actually, doing these little interviews and conversations with you guys has inspired me to do a little kind of just an info video once a week, maybe every couple of weeks. Kind of trying to fill folks in on what's going on at the brewery, what's coming up, off-site events, new beers, what I'm doing in the back while everybody wonders whether I'm just slacking off or not, all that kind of good stuff. So just a little bit of a hello and try to put my face out there a little bit more so I'm not just the man behind the curtain all the time. So
that's awesome. We finally inspired somebody.
We did.
That's gonna be great.
And what a perfect week to talk about that when we had Ron Carey here talking about the importance of content And now you're developing content for the brewery.
Mhm.
Way to go. We'll be watching.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all coming together. So where can we find your videos?
The videos will be anywhere on Isley social media. Instagram, Facebook is what we generally use the most, so that's where they'll be posted. And they hopefully will be coming out Thursdays or Fridays, but that may be adjusted. So just check out our social media. You'll be able to find everything that we've got coming up there, as well as these silly little videos I'm going to do, and anything exciting that's coming up with Isley Brewing.
That is awesome. Terrific. So check out Isley's social media and the new video series. That's very
And
cool.
check out their beer and check out their place. Come on down.
Come on down. So I think that'll wrap us up for
Been another
edition of
good
Beer
week.
and Brands.
right.
Another good week. So thanks again for joining us, everybody. Put in comments. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a like. Give us a thumbs up. And we'll be back for the next edition of Brand Federation's Beer and Brands. See you then.
See you soon.
Thanks.